Hey everyone, how are you? It's Asif here at thinkasif.ca, and today we have Robin and Laurie from Royal LePage Community. It's hard to say that sometimes. Royal LePage, your community realty. They are experts in the Vaughan region, and we're going to ask a few questions to get to know a little bit more about the Vaughan region. So welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So tell me what's going on in Vaughan right now. What's happening in the Vaughan market?
Well, we've seen quite a pickup in activity this spring compared to last spring. Where things kind of were changing, some new rules were introduced. This year, the spring market is in full swing. What we've noticed is it is more of a balanced market.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is we're seeing that houses are staying on the market traditionally 30 to 60 days, of course, depending on list price and market values. And buyers actually have the opportunity to do their due diligence this year, where that was unheard of last year. They can put in their finance and inspection, and they also have more choice.
Okay.
So just to give you an idea in terms of choice, last year, March 2017, we had an inventory of 401 homes, new listings for March. Compared to this year, we have 1,021 for the month of March.
Okay.
In terms of the average price, last year the average price was $1,237,000. This year we're looking at the average price being $994,000.
So it was 1.2 last year, and it's
right.
990 now.
So what that tells us as agents is that the amount of inventory reflected the purchase price. It was a seller's market, and there was very little inventory to go on, and the inventory that was out there was being purchased very quickly for often during multiple offers. This year, when we talk about a balanced market, there's more inventory, more choice for buyers, and the price point has obviously, decreased based on a number of issues that we've seen over the last year, of course, being the foreign taxes and the increase in interest rates and the more stringent restrictions that we have on mortgage rules. So we do feel that it's a great opportunity for buyers to get into the market, but at the same time, now it's we're at a point where there's a lot of negotiation that can happen. Whereas before we had sort of the list price was an arbitrary number.
So you mentioned seller's market and I heard balanced market. Can you delve in a little bit? So seller's market, buyer's market, balanced market, what does it all mean?
Well, what we're saying is that where last year the deeper pockets got the house.
Okay.
And so that cut a lot of people out of the market. So buyers were being priced out of the market.
Okay.
This year, they actually have the capacity to, with their agents, of course, to negotiate a better price, a price that works for both sides.
Okay.
Which is really what you want in terms of what we prefer a balanced market. And we do because, it really is a question of, working with the seller, working with the buyer and coming to a middle ground where everyone sort of feels that they've gotten pretty much what they want. We saw so many buyers last year not be able to purchase because they just didn't have that extra $200,000-300,000 over ask. And the values then, I think now we're back to where the values should have always been and appreciating at a steady pace year over year, but not at the extent that we were seeing at 30% year over year in 2016, 2017.
So for your everyday consumer, that's really simple economics, just supply, demand. So last year they had way less inventory,
right.
And this year they have way more inventory,
Exactly.
but a little bit more balanced.
Okay. It is more balanced, and like Laurie was saying, being on the market 30 to 60 days is not unusual in Ontario prior to 2016. That was a very standard process. You put the house on the market, you wait, till people come in, you get offers, and then you work with the offers that you get. Last year, things would, homes would be on the market, and there would be bully offers, meaning that there would be preemptive offers before, let's say, offer presentation date was decided. Sometimes homes didn't even stay on the market for more than 12 hours. If they got an offer they couldn't refuse, obviously sellers would take it. So it didn't give any buyers the opportunity to shop.
Gotcha. Okay. What we didn't do is actually talk about where Vaughan is. Could you give the parameters or the borders of Vaughan? What does Vaughan look like?
I'll answer that.
Sure. We both live in Vaughan, actually.
Yes, we do. We do. And so basically, what I love about Vaughan is it's the city above Toronto, in that it's just off the 400.
Okay.
That's the easy access. Now with the subway station or the new subway line, the 0.6 kilometers that they've introduced, getting back to Toronto is so much easier. So we're looking at Highway 27 to the west and Bathurst to the east.
Okay.
Right.
How far up north do you guys go?
Just past Major Mac, isn't it?
We do, but we go, Test and Kirby.
Test and
is still-
Kirby, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
There's so many unique pockets in Vaughan, which is what we love about that Vaughan itself. And York Region, as a whole, we do a lot of business in Richmond Hill and, different areas as well. But what I love about Vaughan, and I think what's really important to know, is that there's some very unique pockets. You can still live in Vaughan and feel like you're living in the countryside if you go to rural Vaughan. Sonoma Heights is a great little community as well with, a nice infrastructure there too. There's Valor Village. So there's so many different pockets in Vaughan as a whole. And the other great, asset is that Vaughan is becoming an epicenter. The government, I would say the municipal government has worked very hard to create an environment, an economic infrastructure there. And it will be somewhat like Mississauga, sort of an epicenter unto its own, which we often see in different larger cities, and Toronto being so expansive now that Vaughan will be self-contained as its own epicenter.
Okay. So tell me some of the challenges you're seeing with buyers going into Vaughan.
That's a great question, actually, because we do always see sort of when people are starting to, they call us, they say we're ready to purchase and so on. There's the new home buyer who, needs to be educated about the process. It is a process. And the most important thing, I think the challenge that we have as realtors is getting to the bottom line of what can they afford. And we all want the Lamborghini, but we may only be able to purchase the BMW at this point. And it's sort of managing the expectations of the buyers. And the best thing we can do in terms of giving them advice is to first, if they're living in a home, get it evaluated. We could do a market evaluation of the house to know where they're coming from so they know where they're going. The second thing is speaking to their bank or mortgage broker, which is significant because, we've often seen buyers go into homes that they just can't afford. And then we are taking them off the ledge and trying to now reassess. And it's hard when you've been driving the Lamborghini thinking you can afford it, but now you can only, not that there's anything wrong with BMWs, but just different genres of
you fall in love with something that you can't afford. I mean,
right. So now it's mentally trying to bring them back to reality.
Gotcha.
And that's a process in itself.
So you can prepare for all that by just getting your finance numbers out of the way up front.
Absolutely. Gotcha. Prioritizing and educating, as Robin said.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important step. Once we've done that, then we establish where do you want to go in Vaughan or wherever it is that you choose to live, whether it's Toronto. And every little community has a different status in terms of different financial implications of living in that community. Some homes are more expensive. You can't compare, one community in an area to another. So we really look at the micro communities within Vaughan and are able to give our clients that information as well. And then the other challenge, which I think is the most, again, a very important one, but one that is probably more challenging to our buyers than it is to us, is the list, the bucket list or I should say the laundry list,
wants.
not of wants and needs.
And wants.
Gotcha.
They're two very different things. So it's now chiseling away and taking off the things that are most important, whether it's they need 2-car garage or detached or 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom. So it's figuring out what their actual needs are, and then the wants are sort of icing on the cake.
Gotcha. From a real estate standpoint or real estate agent standpoint, what should a consumer be looking for in their realtor?
Well, first and foremost is you have to have a good rapport and kind of feel a trust. A sense of trust is so important. You have to be working with someone who is familiar with the area, and if they're not as familiar with the area that they're willing to do the research.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean looking at the walking score, assessing the amenities that are nearby, how close are they to hospitals and transit and highways.
Mm-hmm.
So those important things that when you are going to resell your home are going to be big factors in determining what the value of that home is going to be.
Perfect. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining us today. If anybody wants any further information about the Vaughan region, please feel free to reach out to Robin and Laurie. We're going to have their information at the end of our video clip, so please reach out to them, or if you have any questions, give me a call and I'll connect you to them. Thanks again, girls.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.